displacement and double displacement reactions. To understand displacement reaction, as the word itself indicates, that there is some element which is taking the place of some other element, displacing some other element. First and the foremost is that these reactions must be taking place in the aqueous solution. Meaning, if you keep, for example, in initial classes we have covered about this, that when you take a copper sulfate and you add iron to that, the color changes, right? But if you are taking copper sulfate in powder state only, that means simply dry salt you have taken and you add iron weight to that. Keep it for hours together, no reaction will take place. That means for the reaction to take place, you have to dissolve copper sulfate in water. Unless you have the aqueous solution, you cannot have this displacement reaction. Clear? This is first. Second, of course, and the very important one is we are supposed to understand there are two characteristic features of a displacement reaction. Whether the reaction has taken place or not, how will we come to know? So there are two observations, two main observations. At times they ask this also in exam. One, there will be change in the color of the solution. And second very important one is that there will be definitely a deposit. A solid deposit जरूर होगा. I didn't say precipitate, I said deposit. Okay, so if you just go for this definition of it, and what will be the definition of this reaction? That a more reactive metal removes or displaces a less reactive metal from its salt solution. This you are supposed to write in the end. If you are writing the definition only, you have to clear that a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal. The definition is incomplete. From where is it removing? From its salt solution metal. उसी के कंपाउंड में से, उसी के सॉल्ट सॉल्यूशन में से उसको हटा देगा. पर कौन हटा पाएगा? जो ज्यादा रिएक्टिव होगा. And in such cases, what happens? The reactions, we are going to take any number of examples right now. These reactions are the easiest to write. The easiest to write, I'm saying. But of course, the confusing most. If you do not know which metal is more reactive, you are going to make it upside down. You know, in board examinations, to make the students confused, what they do is that they give the reaction which cannot happen. And the students will write the products accordingly. But actually that reaction is not supposed to happen. So therein we are supposed to write a no reaction. Those examples also we are going to take up. Okay. So what am I supposed to remember and learn at present? In general, they ask for certain elements. Of course, reactivity series we need to learn. But in general, they gave us 4 elements: magnesium, iron, aluminium, and these 3 are generally compared with copper. Definitely copper is less reactive as compared to any of these 3. Alright, that means copper cannot remove these 3 from the salt solution, but these 3 can very well remove copper from its corresponding salt solution. Understood? Now let us write this definition of it and let's try a few equations based on this. The reactions in which a more reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal from its salt solution. We are supposed to write this in the notebook right now. taking up Fe in the solid state, iron nails, and we are adding it to copper sulfate solution. This forms FeSO4 again in the aqueous solution, and it actually is going to remove copper from its compound. Here, this was of course a blue colored solution, and after the reaction, this goes greenish in color, and this of course is a reddish brown deposit. We are always going to keep these metals in mind, that generally in exam they compare Fe, Mg and Al with that of copper. These three are going to remove copper from copper sulfate solution always. And below copper, if you have to compare, we can compare copper with that of silver. Ag is the symbol of it. Write down this first equation. In exam, to confuse me, they may give me just the opposite. This equation of course is happening. Very simple to write down. It came in my exam, Fe plus CuSO4, I wrote it very nicely. What if they are giving us just the opposite? That means they are giving us this way. FeSO4 plus Cu. लिखने में बहुत सिंपल है यार, FeSO4 plus Cu लिखा, we can write down CuSO4 plus Fe. The reaction appears very simple. But can actually copper remove Fe from FeSO4? No. That means you are clearly supposed to write down, if at all this equation appears in the exam, you are supposed to write down FeSO4 plus Cu, the arrow mark, and then write down no reaction. Understood? Don't simply just go ahead writing down the products. Here we have to see which compound and which element they had given. This one, the single element they had given, must be more reactive as compared to that of the metal in the salt solution. Then only the reaction will happen. Then only the color change and the deposit will be there. Color change, of course, we have understood. Initially it was copper sulfate. The copper sulfate कैसा सल्फेट जैसा blue color का powder है, right? Then how come this has changed to greenish? Because now the product form will not have copper sulfate in it. It has another compound FeSO4. अब बच्चे ध्यान रखना है, ferrous के compounds जो हैं, all ferrous compounds Fe2+, they are greenish in shade. हल्का green color होता है. There it is imparting the green color to the solution. And what about this deposit? This copper को हटाया है, the copper that is removed from the solution. Metals are heavier, we know very well. उसको solution में वो खुला हुआ था, उसको एक another metal has removed it. It has to go somewhere. It is heavier. It cannot go out of the system just like a gas. Very heavy. So what will happen? It will go down to the system and it will start depositing on the lower side of the test tube. But on the lower side of the test tube, what we have kept? We have kept the iron nails. Test tube के नीचे क्या डाल के छोड़े हुए? 3-4 iron nails. तो क्या करेगा? This copper that is removed, ये कहाँ जाके चिपकना शुरू हो जाएगा? Iron nails पे. This is the first observation we see, that the iron nails start. It appears as though iron nails are getting rusted. Actually, they are not getting rusted. What is happening is that copper is getting and depositing at the iron nails. Understood? So, if at all, remember in exam how these equations will be given. They are going to ask you a reaction and then they are going to ask you write the observations. Remember that. So, हम कहाँ पर गलती करते हैं बच्चे? That we write down the equation simply and we forget to write down the observations. What will be the first observation here? The color changes from blue to greenish. And second, there will be a deposit of copper reddish brown color on iron nails. Clear? We write down those two observations here at least. So that in exam if it comes up, we can write that in the examination. From blue to greenish. And the second one will be deposition of copper metal, that is reddish brown. On iron nails. So if this one we have taken as iron nails, this will be the scenario for us. This actually goes for a 3-mark question in exam. 1 mark for writing the equation completely. After writing the equation, you see that हमारा तो answer complete है, but still then there are certain things which we are bound to write down there. जरूर से जरूर लिखना है. That means we are supposed to write down the state. For example, solid है, aqueous है. Then below that we'll be writing down what exactly are we taking up. Okay, the color of the solution we will mention. Clear? And of course, the displacement reaction took place. After we have noted down this, I am going to give you another equation. Keep in mind this series. Have you noted down this series somewhere? Do it, because based on this, now further equations will be there. I am going to give you initially an equation and let us see what will be the product. So basically, 2 doubts here we have. One, yes, of course. Deposit is, as I told you, that is the metal removed from the salt solution. We are giving it the name as deposit. Precipitate will be an insoluble compound formed due to the combination of 2 different solutions. We are going to take up the next in double displacement reaction. You will understand that there we are giving this insoluble compound formed after reaction. We are giving it the name as precipitate. And this metal that is removed from here, we are giving it the name as deposit. Remember that. And yes, of course, displacement reaction will take place only and only in their salt solution. You have to dissolve the salt in the solution. That means you have to dissolve it in the water to form its corresponding solution. Clear? So let us take up another equation and let's see whether we can. You wrote it down, everybody? Okay. Second equation. let me make it simple. Keep it simple. One more you write on here. So my kids are saying it between ZnSO4 plus. Now let us write down their state and the color change. Mask on, sir. Mask on. There are certain names we give to these metals the way we use them. Like in the previous equation, we had used the term iron nails. If you don't want to use iron nails in the lab, you can always go for iron fillings. The powder, almost the small granules of iron, we call them as iron fillings. Copper metal is actually used in the lab in the form of copper turnings. Do you know about these terms? For iron, we say iron fillings. For copper, we say yes, copper turnings. Copper का छिला हुआ almost spring जैसे छिल रखा spring जैसे छोटे छोटे pieces. And of course for zinc we say yes, zinc granules. For magnesium we use in the form of magnesium ribbon. Clear? So here in this case what we are taking up is zinc granules we are taking up. And copper sulfate solution again, blue colored solution, and here we have taken up zinc granules. That forms of course ZnSO4 and this is a colorless solution. And copper again, reddish brown deposit. Reddish brown deposit. There are two observations again. The first observation will be the color of the solution changes from blue to colorless. The second observation remains the same. There will be a deposit of reddish brown copper metal. Right? And here we have taken up zinc granules. The copper कहाँ जाना शुरू हो जाएगा? On the zinc granules, because zinc granules are also on the lower side of the solution. So even if you write down this much, the answer is enough. Even if you write down in a sentence this way, that there will be a deposit of reddish brown color copper. दो observation समझ में आ गए बेटा? The second observation, there was this doubt online. So that means these two observations, okay, good to go. So these two observations in this reaction also, what if I write just the opposite of this? That means if I, in your exam it is given this way, ZnSO4 plus Cu, no reaction. Alright, same way we can go for writing for aluminium also, and that will form here aluminium sulfate, again colorless. But now let us experiment. Till here we are proving that copper is less reactive than this, copper is less reactive than that. Now let us take an example wherein copper also proves to be powerful than some other metal, that is silver. Okay, let's take that as the equation. This equation everybody has noted down? Now you start writing. I'm just giving you the reactant's name. try to write down its formula also. The reactants are silver nitrate and copper. By the time I write the code and start writing, try to write its formula. I said silver nitrate reacts with copper. Silver, I wrote on the code. Simple have written. Silver is Ag and gold is Au. और silver का symbol Ag क्या होगा? Ardent. So the symbol will be Ag, right? First of all, let's make a formula of silver nitrate. Copper, of course, we know that will be Cu. Ag plus. Okay, we need not go for the configuration of it. Let's learn it by heart. That silver goes for +1, and nitrate is NO3 minus. Automatically, the formula will be AgNO3. So let us have this equation now, wherein we have silver nitrate reacting with copper. That means this will be in the solid form now, and this is the aqueous state of it. And now we are supposed to write, we know very well now we should have copper nitrate. Copper nitrate and silver, because copper is more reactive than silver. Let's make the formula of copper nitrate first of all. Remember, copper exists in nature in two valencies, +1 and +2. +1 is cuprous, +2 is cupric. But in nature, +2 exists in more amount. In case of iron also, there are two valencies, Fe2 plus and Fe3 plus. In that case, kids always remember that Fe3 plus exists in more amount. Here, so here Cu 2 plus and NO3 minus. That will be, of course, after cross multiplication, Cu NO3 whole twice, and this Cu NO3 whole twice. This will be in the aqueous state plus silver. This is in the solid state. This solution actually is transparent, no color. Okay? From no color or transparent, just like water. And of course, copper we have taken up in the form of copper turnings. How these turnings they appear? This is almost like the spring, small spring-like structures. Okay. लकड़ी को छीलते देखा हमने, जिस तरीके से लकड़ी को छीलते वो गोल-गोल से रोल बन जाते हैं, थोड़े बड़े रोल होते हैं, and these are like smaller ones. I'll show you in the class. And then after that, this one, copper. Remember, like I told you that Fe2 plus always imparts light green color. Okay. Same way, always remember that wherever you are adding copper, that imparts bluish color to the solution. So from transparent, it starts turning bluish. That solution is going to take some time, but it will definitely happen. This turns the solution into bluish color. And of course, here we have the silver deposit, silver color deposit. Silver color deposit. That is shining grayish color. That deposit will be there. Now, in initial times, we have covered what? Balancing the equation also. Balancing the equation also. So, can you try to balance this equation? Is it balanced first of all? So here, beginning with oxygen itself first of all. Oxygen 6. Here we have silver, nitrogen and oxygen. Silver, how many of them? 1. Nitrogen 1. Oxygen 3. And here copper 1. Here we have copper 1, nitrogen and oxygen. Nitrogen how many? 2. Oxygen 3. 6. And here silver 1. So initially I am going to balance oxygen because I feel that oxygen here is 6 and there it is 3 only. So to make it 6, what I am going to do? Multiply it with 2. So it gets multiplied with 2. Oxygen, according to me, it got balanced on both the sides. And nitrogen got balanced. Copper here is balanced and silver 2 and silver 1. So into 2. Silver got balanced on both the sides. Clear? Write down the balanced equation and please note down the way it has been done. And let's move ahead with the next type of reaction now, that is double displacement. Note it down fast. Note it down fast, only 1 minute of time I am giving you. Good that people are participating online also. Good to go. Everybody wrote in the class? Okay. Let's go ahead for the next type of reaction, and that is double displacement. Double displacement reactions are also known as precipitation reactions. In such reactions, what happens is that if you are taking two solutions, that means salts dissolved in water, you mix them both and what you get is an insoluble product. An insoluble compound is formed and that settles at the bottom. It may be of white color if PSO4 is formed, or it may be yellow in color. These reactions are also known as precipitation reactions. Remember, bachcho, all precipitation reactions are double displacement reactions, but all double displacement reactions are not precipitation. It's not necessary that in every double displacement reaction precipitate will be formed. But if a precipitate is being formed, that means definitely it is a double displacement reaction. Okay? Reactions in which there is an exchange of ions between the reactants known as, here we have taken a reaction to the reaction is known as double displacement reaction. Double displacement reactions and insoluble product is formed. Therefore, these reactions are also known as precipitation reactions. Sodium sulfate and barium chloride. Sodium sulfate of course they have given that in the book. Sodium sulfate. Sodium is Na plus and sulfate is SO4 2 minus. And after exchanging this, what we get is Na2SO4. Okay? And this sodium sulfate reacts with barium chloride. Barium again is Pa2 plus and chloride is Cl minus. After exchanging this, it forms PaCl2. Just now we have covered in the definition that there is an exchange of ions. That is, you can always say that there is an exchange of negatively charged multi-atomic ion. Meaning that this ion which was there with barium before the reaction, after the reaction it goes and sticks to sodium. और सोडियम के पास कौन सा आयन था? सल्फेट. That comes and sticks to barium. उन्होंने अपने अपने पार्टनर्स को एक्सचेंज किया है and in the result of course a precipitate is formed. Insoluble product बना जो नीचे सेटल हुआ. So therefore such reactions are also known as precipitation reactions. So here next formula will be sodium का किसके साथ में? Chloride के साथ में. That means Na plus and Cl minus. फॉर्मूला क्या बन गया? सिंपल NaCl. और यहाँ पर बेरियम किसके साथ जुड़ जाएगा बेटा? Pa2 plus goes and sticks to SO4 2 minus. 2 से 2 कैंसिल हो गया. फॉर्मूला क्या बना? बेरियम सल्फेट का BaSO4. So let us write down them. This is Na2SO4 in aqueous state plus sodium sulfate plus barium chloride. barium chloride, again aqueous, and this forms sodium chloride and BaSO4. This BaSO4 is actually a precipitate, and we can put down this lower mark indicating that it settles down. And this is actually white precipitate, white colored insoluble substance, plus NaCl. This will be in the aqueous state in the solution. We are supposed to keep writing side by side. The reactants names also, of course, we know. Now, sodium sulfate, barium chloride, barium sulfate, and sodium chloride. So there is an exchange of ions, and in most of the cases, an insoluble product will be formed, and therefore we call such reactions as precipitation reactions. In one of the question in board examination, if you see that under the heading of double displacement in your textbook, only one equation is given. In exam, they had asked you the definition of double displacement reaction, and that was for 1 mark, and 2 equations for double displacement reaction. 2 equations are not mentioned in the textbook. You see your textbook, page number 11 and 12. Only one equation that is given on page number 11. This down arrow mark. कभी भी जब हम इक्वेशन लिखते हैं, डाउन एरो मार्क इंडिकेट कि एक इनसॉल्युबल प्रोडक्ट नीचे सेटल हो रहा है, और अप एरो मार्क हम लगाते हैं गैसेस के केस में, दैट दे आर लीविंग द सिस्टम. समझे बेटा? अब फिर से इस चीज को ध्यान देंगे. There was this question which had indicated for 2 equations, and if you see on page number 12 of your textbook, there is this activity 1.2. Activity 1.2, just read it once. And there lies some information, and on the basis of that information, the questions were there in the exam. 2 mark question उसमें से भी separately बन जाता है, wherein they had given only the name of certain components. You just read it once by the time I'm writing the code for the equation, and I'm putting that equation here now. The equation that is not mentioned, only activity is given. Read the activity once. 1.2. It says potassium iodide with lead nitrate. यही बोला दोनों reactants. तो बेटा इसमें क्वेश्चन कैसे बनता है? You are supposed to write down the balanced equation, 1 mark, and you are supposed to mention which precipitate is formed and the color of the precipitate. 2 mark का क्वेश्चन बनता है बेटा इस एक्टिविटी में से. And here let us make the formulas. The first one. It says potassium iodide and lead nitrate. Potassium and iodide. That means this. Lead nitrate, Pb. NO3 minus Pb2 plus. Formula क्या बना? PbNO3 whole twice. You know very well after the reaction the exchange of ions will be there. Pb will go with I. Pb2 plus I minus. The formula will be PbI2. And this K is going to go with NO3. A plus NO3. The formula क्या बना? KNO3. Okay. So the reactants here are Ai, potassium iodide in aqueous state plus lead nitrate. Again in aqueous state. This gives the product PbI2. This is of course solid, and the color is, it is a yellow PBT. Yellow precipitate. This potassium nitrate lies in the aqueous state. Please note down this equation. Activity 1.2 based on that. 2-mark question. 1 you are supposed to write down the balanced chemical equation. 1 mark. You are supposed to write down what is the precipitate formed here, lead iodide, and the color is of course yellow. Half mark each. 2-mark question it is, board based. Okay, read it thoroughly and hope you have understood this, and in the next lecture we are going to deal with the remaining part of the chapter. Happy learning, kids.